So we see linear dunes on Saturn's moon Titan, and the question is, what kind of dunes are they? And as a reminder, this is what Titan looks like to our would look like to our naked eyes, because in the visible you really only see into the haze layer, so that's invisible light. And then if you look in the infrared, you can see all the way down to the surface. So this is a map from Cassini data looking in the infrared to see some surface features. But if you then look in radar, so now if you look with radio waves that you're bouncing off the surface, now you can see things like the surface topography, so mountains and dips, and the roughness and other properties. And so this is all of the Cassini synthetic aperture radar swaths through 2015. So not quite to the end of the mission, but an awful lot of them. You can see an awful lot of detail in here. And people have gone through and mapped out what the different surface types are like. And you can see that there are dunes, this purple color, over almost all longitudes. So almost all the way around the planet, there's almost like a continuous band of dunes, which is pretty amazing. All at low latitudes, all within about 30 or 30 degrees of the equator. So it's one idea is that all the sand is kind of over time being moved down to the low latitudes, which kind of dry out, and so it kind of has the best conditions for sand to exist there. So if we zoom in at some of these Cassini radar images, you can see these very straight linear dunes. So perhaps those are longitudinal dunes. And if you then look at these, another picture, you can again see these straight dunes. Now, maybe they're longitudinal dunes. So we can speculate, well, okay, maybe if we put some lines along where we see these dunes, perhaps these are longitudinal dunes, and so you'd expect the wind direction to be maybe something like this, maybe a couple of different wind directions, one from slightly further north, one from slightly further south, and that could tie in with seasonal changes in winds, and that would produce maybe those longitudinal dune orientations. But then it seems like in this region right here we have some dunes that are at 90 degrees to those original ones. And perhaps they're transverse dunes, because you can see this big obstacle here, this big little mountain, mini mountain, more like a big wide hill. And so that you can think that, okay, sometimes of year you have wind coming from sort of the northwest, right? But it has to kind of go around this obstacle, so it gets pulled round to come maybe more from the west. And then other times of year, you might have the wind coming more from the west anyway, so that doesn't get changed. So now we have the same kind of wind direction at all times of year because of this obstacle, because of how it makes the wind flow around it. And that's why instead of getting longitudinal dunes, you get transverse dunes.